Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are the co-owners of AVAIYA University. Thanks so much for joining us for our Breaking Free from Codependency curriculum. We have another great class lined up for you today with Simon Borg-Olivier. He's going to be talking with us about safe, accessible, but effective posture, movement, and breathing to break free from codependency. Simon and I dive into things like how posture and movement and breathing can help you get into the present moment, get into a meditative state, let go of thoughts and negativity, and truly connect with yourself and practice self-love and so much more. Enjoy the class, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to AVAIYA's Breaking Free from Codependency curriculum. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of AVAIYA University. AVAIYA is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Simon Borg-Olivier, is here to talk with us today about safe, accessible, but effective posture, movement, and breathing to break free from codependency. Simon is co-director of Yoga Synergy, one of Australia's oldest and most respected yoga schools, with a style based on a deep understanding of yoga anatomy, yoga physiology, and traditional hatha yoga. He is a registered physiotherapist, a research scientist, and a university lecturer. Simon has been regularly teaching internationally since 1982. He has been regularly invited to teach at special workshops and conferences, interstate and overseas, since 1990. Simon was also a featured teacher on AVAIYA University's Overcoming PTSD curriculum. Welcome back, Simon.
It's a pleasure to be here again, Andy. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm thrilled to be on this summit. Thank you.
Excellent. And thank you for saying yes. I had an awesome conversation with you last time, and I'm so excited to apply your amazing work into the conversation of codependency. So let's talk about, I'd love if we break down posture, movement, breathing, and talk about each of those. So when you say safe but effective posture, what do you mean by that? And how could that relate to someone who's struggling with codependency?
Well, for me, safe posture is not just safe in terms of the risk of damage to your muscles and joints, but it also must feel good physiologically. It mustn't drain your energy, because if it drains your energy, often it also is draining your immune system, reproductive system, digestive. So I want it safe physically, but also physiologically as well. And it's got to be safe mentally. So mental safeness in a physical exercise means it's got to be enjoyable. It's got to be fun. Because if it's not fun, if it feels like a chore to do, mentally that puts you off. And so in terms of codependency, I think, there are obviously many things we could address on a psychological level with codependency, but what I'd like to offer in this forum is the possibility of taking some sort of independent self-control over one's life by addressing the things that you really can control, your own body in terms of posture, movement, and breathing. And if you can make some impact on your body with posture, movement, and breathing in a way that your body feels like it's being nurtured and becomes a little bit more powerful in itself, but doing it in a way where it actually is enjoyable to do. And what I tell my students often is, I want your practice to feel like you're in a warm bath being massaged by someone who really loves you. And people really register with that, because the practice I'm offering is something which, if you're a little bit attuned to yourself, you can make it so it feels like a massage in a warm bath. I encourage ways of making people move their blood effectively so they feel warm, but the heart rate stays very low. So with the warmth, the body starts to feel connected, because warmth means the blood is traveling from your heart right to your fingers. And so when we experience that warmth, we feel connected. But if your heart is racing to make the blood flow, it also puts you into a state of oversympathetic nervous system drive, which is that state of flight, fight, fear, as opposed to the sometimes called opposing state of parasympathetic dominance, which is the state that we feel when we're calm. And when we're calm, we have a dominance of love and safety and trust. And that trust and love can come within ourselves. So when you've got a person who's tending to be codependent, often they're needy of love and feeling independent. feeling dependent on someone else. So to feel like you can offer love to yourself, that you can feel independent within yourself without the need for someone else, that you can amuse yourself, that you can give yourself love, that I think is a real pathway to giving a chance to remove yourself from codependency.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. I love that. So can you give maybe some examples of how someone could start applying these movements or postures or what have you into their life so that they start to get that sense of self-love and feeling right safe within themselves independently?
Okay, well, I have a selection of simple to complex exercises, but let's stay with the very simple. So, for example, your shoulder blades in many modern situations, we're often told that you should move away from this slumping forward position, which people get very miserable at desks on. And we're told you have to pull your shoulders back and down like this. And these are two postures which are not wrong, but they're just overly done. One is the sort of collapsed posture with the apathy and the, working on a desk thing. And the other one is the very forced posture, which feels actually very, very tense. So both of them are extreme. One is collapsed extreme and one is forced extreme backwards. And whenever you come to the end of your range of movement, you feel in a prison. I'm getting a ringing sound for some reason. So whenever you come to the end of your range of movement, it makes you feel in a prison-like effect. And when you have things like martial arts, if someone puts you in a locked elbow position where the elbow can't straighten anymore, there's a risk that someone can break your elbow. So it's actually a mistake, in my opinion, to put yourself into any position where you're at the end of the range of your motion. You don't want that. You don't want to be in a position where you're at the end of your range of your motion. So having your shoulders either fully forward or fully back is not a good idea. And so another way you can work with this is by moving the shoulders up and down. And by having your shoulders up and down, as well as forward and backward, and not taking the extreme movement. So you never go fully forward, never go fully back, always live a little bit of freedom. Then you have the possibility from those four positions, not fully forward, not fully back, not fully up, not fully down. So you're not really stretching, but you're changing position. You can then go in a circle and you can start moving in a circle where you don't scrape the edges. You don't go, running so that there's always a feeling of stretch. You just go so there's a feeling of freedom. And this feeling of freedom is actually a nice thing subconsciously to give you a feeling of freedom. But also what it's doing is it relieves a lot of pain. And a lot of people in codependent situations tend to be a little bit physically tensed. Their neck is tense up, their shoulders are tense up. And that gives, this painful feeling. But when you move like this, you release a lot of neck pain, you release a lot of shoulder pain. And neck and shoulder pain, because they're so close to our thinking brain, can really cause trauma in the whole body. But more important than that, in my opinion, is you immediately start to turn your shoulder blades into a blood pump. Because as the shoulders go up, that pushes the blood away from the region above the shoulders and pulls it toward the region below the shoulders. When the shoulders go down, it pushes the blood the opposite way. And forward and backward works the same way. So anyone doing this, if they just simply roll their shoulders without stretching, within about half a minute, their fingers start to feel warm. Their body starts to feel warm because the blood is pumped throughout the entire body, but without the heart racing, which means they're getting this, what I'll call, the body sharing good energy and loving information. The good energy being the blood circulating, and the loving information is the information of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that feeling of rest, rejuvenation, relaxation, and a dominance subconsciously of love, peace, safety, and trust within yourself. You don't need someone else then. You can feel trusting and independent within yourself. So this is a really good exercise, and it can be done either shoulders going forward or shoulders going backward, or like in a backward bicycle or in a forward bicycle. And I can give you, actually what I've got is a free gift I can offer to people, where I'll give you exercises like this for all the major joints in the body. And what's especially nice if someone is a little bit more able to do more than one thing at once, is you do it with all the different parts of the body at once. So your fingers can be doing this, with your wrists doing this, with your elbows doing this, and your shoulders doing this, and your upper arms going up and down. And it's a very, very effortless thing, because what we're giving people when we do this is the possibility of entering a meditative state. And the meditative state really can remove the need for codependency, because the meditative state is one where mentally you're totally engaged in the present moment, no past, no future, and feeling totally connected with yourself, body and mind, and the activity you're engaged in. And there's no sense of separation. So there's no need then to feel like you're dependent on someone else. The meditative state then will come when you've got this sense of engagement in the activity you're doing, plus it's something which is sustainable, something you can do which is not too difficult. In other words, you can do this with almost any activity, but I wouldn't do it with push-ups or sprinting, because they're not sustainable activities. Whereas rolling your shoulders, you can do for quite a long time. So it's engaging, it's sustainable. It's also giving a very calming effect. It also feels effortless, so you have to make it so there's no pain, no discomfort. And the most important thing that will give you the meditative state is that it's invigorating, meaning it will move blood. And when someone can move blood in their body while doing something which is really relaxing, that's what maybe the Tibetan monk would be doing when they're sitting naked in the snow. And you go, it looks like they're meditating, but why aren't they cold? It's because they've got this very peaceful state where blood is really flowing well. Blood flows well, that's connection. And the peaceful state, that's the love inside yourself. And when you feel connected, at peace, in love, you don't need someone else. You're totally independent.
Mm.
And that's what I can offer in terms of posture and movement.
That's
So I
beautiful.
tell you what I can offer in terms of breath as well.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. That all was just so good as it related to like being present, not in the past or the future, as it relates to
Yes,
a codependent mind is
yes.
often, going either direction. So that was great. So yes, please, breathing.
But maybe I can just add to that one more thing is to be engaged in an activity, it's a little bit, you have to tweak it for each person, because what you want to be really engaged in the present moment is an activity which is not too boring, because if it's too boring, your mind drifts off to past and future. But it can't be too exciting, otherwise it becomes stress. So you have to tweak it for the average individual so that it's an activity that you're doing, because it could be any number of activities. I'll offer some, but it can't be so exciting that it causes stress. It must still be calming. But if it's too calming, it becomes boring.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find just that level which keeps you in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be different for different people. Now, the other thing I wanted to offer is that when you're doing these simple movements like the shoulder exercises I was giving you, it affects your breathing. So, for example, if someone lifts up their shoulders like this, the tendency is for air to come in, because the shoulder lifting will cause their chest to expand. And if you were to imagine that my left hand and my right hand are the bottom and top of my chest, when you lift up, when you separate them, when you lift the shoulders, there's like a suction effect. And so if you pulled your hands apart, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but there's a suction. So people often think that when we breathe in, our chest gets bigger, but actually it's the opposite. When you make your chest bigger, air comes in. When you make your chest smaller, air goes out. And a lot of people make a mistake because they hear that breathing is something that's really good and that can help you access your unconscious. But actually, as soon as most people attempt any breathing exercise, they overbreathe and they overtense. And that actually adds to stress. And it acts to, it actually causes hyperventilation and overtension. So a big mistake people make with breathing is think that it's important to breathe. Actually, what it's important to do is to relax, reestablish natural breathing. And when you reestablish natural breathing with these movements, it actually gives a rhythmical breath. So if I were to do this very, very slowly, like say, take 6 seconds to go up and 6 seconds to go down, and I was very relaxed, it would make a very small amount of air go in for 6 seconds, a very small amount of air to go out for 6 seconds. And when you get that regulation of inhale, exhale, for even 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, or 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, depending on how fast you did it, that regulation of the breath will start to affect your heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is the number one way to really gain access to your parasympathetic nervous system and your immune health and your sense of inner well-being. So that's an important part of the breathing. But then if you want more than that, what you can also do is actually control your breath. And the secret to breathing exercises, which actually consciously focus on the breath, are that you don't want to breathe more than normal. You want to breathe less than normal. So I've got a couple of courses where I can do this, but you don't have to do the course. You could just read the explanation of the course, and it gives you pretty much what I'm teaching. But if people want to, they can also enroll in my course. And it's a course where I teach people how to do 4 types of very important breath control, which are the next step that you'd learn after simple, relaxed, natural breathing. And these 4 types of breath control are the ability to learn how to breathe in very, very, very slowly from your diaphragm, from your pelvic floor. So it starts very, very low, which is very grounding and earthing and calming, and really nurtures your immune system, as well as giving a lot of back pain relief, because it releases a lot of lower back muscles. So I teach this very, very, very slow inhale and a very, very relaxed, slow exhale for about 45 seconds if possible. And also the ability to get comfortable holding your breath in, holding the breath out. So this very, very simple program that I've got can really give people a sense of independence and also a sense of freedom for a number of reasons. One of them is that often with people in crisis or dependent situations is a lack of feeling of enough going on for themselves and enough freedom going on for themselves. So when you learn how to breathe less than normal, you actually get a lot of freedom and a lot of energy. Because if you say to someone, you're doing too much, you need to do less, often what they do is just sit and they overthink. And the overthinking becomes doing more. And if you just say sit and relax, it's okay. You get a bit of energy out of doing sitting, relaxing if your mind's at peace. But when you can focus on controlled breathing in an intelligent, accessible way, then what you start learning gradually is the ability to do less than what you would normally do when you're doing nothing. So, if doing nothing gives you energy, like a restful sleep, what could you do that gives you more energy than doing nothing is doing less than nothing. And that's learning how to breathe less than normal. Learning how to breathe less than normal effectively is like free energy from the universe. And so there's a couple of ways you can approach it, but this exercise that I can offer is a way of learning very simple, slow, calm breath with none of the complex muscle locks and tensions that often people offer. But what it does is it starts to give you a lot of energy and something very, very simple to focus on to really bring you into the present moment in your practice. And I think they're both really useful practices, these that I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I love that. It's a paradox of, right, how we might not be relaxed by doing nothing because our minds might be then wandering and going
Yes.
into the past or the
Yes.
future. So that's awesome. I love
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm offering then 2 different ways of doing it, because some people, breath is just too difficult to work with. Some people are better off working with posture. But if you can do a combination of the 2 in a way which doesn't cause overbreathing, it's very, very powerful. Very, very powerful to get into our bodies, to do something for ourselves, to make ourselves, really feel like we've done something to ourselves to make ourselves feel good. This takes you right away from codependency, because then you don't need anyone else to feel good. And if you can do it in a way where it actually feels nice while you're doing it, where you can show yourself love while you're doing it, and you don't need to be dependent on other people's love either. And I think that's the biggest thing with codependency, is the need to feel independent as opposed to dependent on someone else, and the ability to give yourself love rather than feeling like you need the love from someone else, you need the approval from someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Huge. That's
Mm.
a very, very big component of it. So I love that you've showed us ways to do that by just moving and breathing. And yeah, I love that. So here's another question as it relates to this. Obviously these kinds of postures and movements can help people get out of their head if they have obsessive thinking and that kind of stuff. It looks like that can really like presence people into the moment. What about also, I'm curious, do these postures and movements and breathing, does it help people maybe get more in touch with their feelings? I know a
Yes,
lot
yeah.
of people with codependency struggle with like stuffing their feelings, not being present to how they feel. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. One of the most revealing things about the breath is that if you can breathe from the very base of your body, at the very least, breathe diaphragmatically. And when I say breathe diaphragmatically, a lot of people are confused about this. A real diaphragmatic feeling should be one where you feel like there's a gentle expansion in your lower back, in your lower abdomen, and in the pelvic floor. And a lot of people can't breathe there. And if you can get someone to have a posture where they consciously relax their pelvic floor and their abdomen and release the muscles in their lower back and breathe right down very, very deep, that can really enhance the function of the diaphragm. And the diaphragm is one of these very special places in the body which has a dual control. Dual control with the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. So the conscious mind we can call somatic nervous system. Unconscious mind is the autonomic nervous system. And what's very special about the breath, because everyone talks about the breath as being a really important thing. You know, you're not doing yoga unless you're working with the breath, or it's not going to work unless you're breathing. Actually, it's not the breathing that's important. It's the access to the diaphragm, because the diaphragm is a very special place in the body that has control via the conscious mind, via the somatic nervous system, and also via the autonomic nervous system, or what we can call the unconscious mind. You can choose to take an abdominal breath whenever you feel like it. Breathe into your abdomen. But when you're asleep, in your most restful, regenerative state, you're breathing diaphragmatically anyway. So if you can control something which normally is controlled subconsciously, you have access to your unconscious mind. And provided you take control of your unconscious and there is actually nothing stressful around you, your conscious mind starts to realize actually there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to worry about. Of course, if you were doing this and you saw there was a real saber-toothed tiger attacking you, you'd respond appropriately. But often we perceive there are saber-toothed tigers all around us, in our relationships, in our mortgages, with our children, with our banks, when you turn on the news. But actually, there's mostly nothing to be scared of. So by taking the possibility of accessing your unconscious, then you start to realize that there's nothing wrong. And so there's nothing to worry about. And one way is by accessing the diaphragm. But the diaphragm is not the only place that can be accessed by the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. The other places include the pelvic floor, front, back, and middle, the anal muscles, the urethra, and the genitals, the perineum, plus also the fingers and toes, plus also the neck, plus also your jaw, your lips, your eyes, which are like, many people understand that you can blink consciously, but if someone passed something in front of your face quickly, you'll blink automatically. So by controlling your blinking, the ways your eyes roll, the way your tongue, your lips, and your jaw works, which are things I include in this free gift I've offered as well, that you should not just move your fingers or your shoulders, but also your jaw, your lips, and it brings you automatically to the realization that we can access our unconscious and that generally what's around us is not a threatening, stressful place. And so you come into touch with the realization that it's okay to trust, that it's okay to be in love with what's around you, that it's okay to feel connected because there's nothing to be threatened by what's around you. And the biggest thing that's around us, or what we perceive is us, is our body. Because many people who are codependent or even in post-traumatic stress disorders, or have, different things which are related to their mental state being not percent happy, is they don't realize that they don't just live here, they live in their body. So to feel connected is the connection we have in our body. And if you can really feel connected in your body, you don't need to be connected with anyone else in the world. It's lovely to have a community, but if someone is not even connected within their body, they feel disconnected and they feel the need to be dependent on someone else or another place. But if you can feel connected within your body, you don't need dependency on someone else. And so being in touch with your breath diaphragmatically is the key. Breathe low. Breathe into your pelvic floor, your lower abdomen, your lower back, and then work from there. And check that connection, which is this autonomic nervous system connection, is also available, that your fingers can move, your shoulders can roll, your neck is free. You can move your jaw, your lips, your eyes, because those things are as important to your sense of well-being as what many people tell you all the time, how important breathing is. But breathing is only important and only good for you if you breathe less, if you breathe low into your pelvic floor. And the biggest mistake people make is when you say you should breathe more, people go, and they take a deep breath into their chest, which is just mostly for most people a stressful breath with overtension and overbreathing, which just causes a loss of blood flow to the brain and overstimulation of the nervous system and less energy into the cells. This is what you don't want. So when I'm teaching breathing, I'm very cautious in the beginning to explain this to people, that their aim is not to breathe more. Their aim is to be like an elite athlete who runs fast and hardly breathes at all, as opposed to the sick person who's walking like this going, you go, that person's really sick because they're breathing more. You don't want to breathe more. You want to breathe less. And the easiest way to do this is just to breathe naturally and just move in a very, very gentle way and go, relax the pelvic floor, relax the abdomen, relax your face. And if you can learn to exercise like that, you're actually a very, very fit person, a very connected, fit person. You don't need anyone else.
Awesome. Thank you. So here's a question that's coming to mind. So this is, right, we're talking about things that people can obviously do when they're on their own or in a group of people doing these postures or movements. But what about someone who is dealing with life or a relationship issue or something's going on in their, let's say their codependency is triggered? How can, in the heat of the moment of something happening in someone's life, how can they apply what you're talking about? And obviously not in all situations are we going to start, like making all movements like around other people. So like but I would imagine there's things we could do that are less visible or things that we could work on our breathing in those moments to calm our nervous system. Any thoughts there?
Okay, I mean, depending on what sort of person you are, it might look a little bit odd in a particular situation to start doing this.
Yeah.
It might look a bit, freaky. But what you can do without really anyone noticing, and I do this all the time, is I will start by bending my knees just a little bit. And if you bend your knees just a little bit, it allows your hips to drop down. So when you bend your knees a bit and you just drop your sitting bones like they're a weight on a string, which is your spine. And then when you do that, the lower back becomes that little bit more lengthened. And the lower back between the level of the top of the hips and the tailbone around the L5-S1 junction, the junction between your sacrum and the last part of the spine. And on either side of that, there's the sacroiliac joints. That region there is really important to have open in your body. And so if you just bend your knees a little bit and just drop your hips, your lower back will straighten out a little bit and it will relax. And that part there is the part you want to come into. It's very difficult to breathe into that part when you're standing up straight because that part usually is compressed. So by lengthening it, and then without anyone having to see, you just relax the pelvic floor. It sounds a bit funny, but I say to people, relax your pelvic floor as if you're about to go to the toilet, but not. And then feel that the breath will naturally go there. And it sounds very funny, but for anyone who's had a baby or has a baby now, if you are changing their nappy and you look at them, then what they're doing is their pelvic floor will expand and open like a flower when they inhale. And then it just relaxes on the exhale. It's the most natural breath you've got. And so often when someone is tense, when someone is aggressive, their anal sphincter, the urethra will tense up.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you want is to release that. And no one's going to see that, but you'll feel it. So bending the knees a little bit, dropping your sitting bones, relaxing the floor, lengthening the skin of the lower back, and just relaxing the bits that no one else is going to notice, like your shoulders, your face, your jaw, then already you're going to be able to untrigger that panic response. But the thing is, are you going to be able to come out of the heat of the moment? That's going to take training.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people will react like a knee-jerk reflex
Right.
when they're triggered. And so you've got to have some sort of mental thing in your head that says, hold on, I'm being triggered. Let's just go back to doing the things that I'm triggered. Bend my knees, relax the pelvic floor, drop the hips, breathe into the lower back. And that will take a little bit of practice for many people to not be triggered. And sometimes, having a little string tied around your finger or something like that, something that will remind you not to get triggered, not to raise your voice, not to become aggressive. Because as soon as you become aggressive, the person next to you becomes aggressive. And what I find is the more you can practice doing what I suggested at the start of our talk, sharing good energy and loving information inside your body by encouraging blood flow, staying calm with these simple movements, with the simple breath control, the more you give yourself that message, the more you start to find it's much easier then to be with the person who you sometimes come in conflict with and share good energy and loving information with them.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to first be able to share it within yourself. Good
Right.
energies, good blood flow, loving information, the information of the parasympathetic nervous system. But it's really hard to share it with anyone else unless you first share it within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Thank you, Simon. That was a great example. I appreciate that, to help people in situations where they can, calm themselves in that way. So I love it. Thank you. So you've mentioned a couple times about the gift you have for everybody where we can get some of these exercises. And I know also you have some courses. So there's a couple buttons below the video, everybody, that link to Simon's site. So could you share a little bit more about both of those?
Okay, the free gift gives you a lovely set of joint movements that you can do, and I've got a little bit of a spiel with it as well. It's actually got a couple of other things as well, a set of simple spinal movements, and for those of people who are more physically, I've got another practice which is a bit longer, which you could incorporate those joint movements into what looks like for some people it looks like a modern yoga practice. People, it looks like modern dance, or it could also look like beginning of a very slow Tai Chi or Qigong or martial arts routine. So there's a different level of practice for everyone there in the free gift. And I've given a bit of notes like what I've said to you just now. And then for those who want to learn more, I've got the possibility. I've given I think it's a 47% discount on on one of my special breath control courses that I was describing, and that's something which I really recommend. And so many people have done this course; they've got so many benefits out of it. What I build up to is the possibility of doing one breath in 45 seconds, which is what the course shows. And I find that the average person, if I have a group of, say, 100 people, 3/4 of the people can do most of the course straight away. And there'll be a few who'll have to modify it, make it simpler, maybe make the breath for 30 seconds. But I'll show you how to do it. But what I'd like people to do is to build up to doing one breath a minute. Once you can start doing one breath a minute, which most people who do the course find that by the time the course is finished, they can build up to, it gives you so much energy. It releases so much tension in the back and the body. And it gives so much of a beautiful prelude to a meditative practice afterwards. And so this is something I'd really like to share with people. For my practice at the moment, I breathe in 1 minute, I breathe out 1 minute. I can do that for 1 hour. And it's the most blissful thing that I do because it's very, very, it's no physical effort. I just sit and just go very, very slow breathing. But you build up to this, you build up very slowly towards it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing both of those, Simon. And again, everyone, there's a couple buttons below that link over to that free gift as well as the course on breathing. And do you have any last insights? Anything else you want to leave people with before we hop off?
Love yourself. Love yourself and don't be caught up with the modern idea that it's not right to love yourself. People, I live in Australia and sometimes people say, you just love yourself, don't you? And you go, yes. Is there anything wrong with that? If you can't show yourself love, how's anyone else going to love you? And for people who are codependent, I think there's this problem that we're feeling like we need someone's love. The most important person to show love to first is yourself. And what you get by showing love to someone is the ability to give love. And I think most people just want to give love. We think we want love, but what we really feel best with is if we give love. And I always talk to my friends about how there's always this kid at school. You know, I'm sure people have had a situation when you're at school where some child or some other, person of your age really loved you. They might have written letters or they might have told their friends, and you're just going, that kid again is like, and you just think they're such a jerk. But they're pouring out love to you, but you don't really feel it unless you were that kid who poured love to someone else and they were just looking at you like, who is this person? But when you're giving the love, you feel something. When you're receiving it, you don't feel that much. So don't worry about waiting to receive love. Practice the giving love. But you can't always give love to someone who doesn't want it. But you have every right to give love to one important person, and that's yourself. So spend the time every day to give love to yourself, because you're allowed to do that and you're not going to complain. And you get this added benefit. Suddenly you're going to look like a person who likes to receive love. And people are very, very happy to give love to someone who wants to receive love. They're not going to give love to someone who can't even love themselves. So this is important. It's not a bad thing to love yourself. Spend some time every day doing something. Go away from the axiom of no pain, no gain. Go away from the axioms of survival of the fittest. Go away from the axioms of there's no free lunch. It is possible to do something for yourself with nourishing, loving, and really satiating and engendering of well-being, health, and longevity and happiness, to do something for yourself which does not involve no pain, no gain. It actually is something which is a free lunch. You can do something very, very simple that will give you more energy by the time you finish doing it and will make you feel better. The axioms I usually tell my students are: it is possible to become flexible without stretching. It's possible to get strong without feeling tense. It's possible to achieve blood flow and enhance circulation without needing to make your heart beat faster. It's possible to become intelligent and connected within your body without having to think too much. It's possible to get more energy without having to breathe so much or eat so much. You just have to find the path. And so what I've offered in my stories is I can give some of these clues, and I'd love to share them with you. People can write to me if they want to. Go to simonborg-olivier.com. You can get my email address and you can connect with me. And I've got like a membership site where people can join and ask questions each week, and we can talk for hours. I'm happy to do that. It's such a talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. It's been a pleasure connecting with you again today. And thank you for sharing you and all your passions. And I so appreciate it. So it's awesome.
Well, I'd like to tell everyone that what you're sharing is fantastic. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing the other speakers on this forum. And what you guys are doing is amazing. So keep up the fantastic work. And I'm honored to be part of what you're doing. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I hopefully look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future. Thank you very much to everyone being here as well.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Simon, for being here. And we'll see you all again real soon. Take care. Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this latest class with Simon Borg-Olivier. He talked with us about safe, accessible, but effective posture, movement, and breathing to break free from codependency. I really loved this conversation. I am a big proponent of posture, of movement, of breathing, of yoga, of physical activity, of things that can get you into your body, into feeling your body again, and get you out of your head into the present moment. And that's really what we talked about today. So Simon talked about how different postures and different ways you can move your body and different breathing practices can get you into a meditative state. And when you're in a meditative state, you no longer have the need to be validated by others. You no longer have the need to get your needs fulfilled by others because you're doing it for yourself. You're tapping into and connecting with who you really are, You're getting into the present moment. You're focusing in on the present because you're not tapped into your head. You're not tapped into that thinking mind. You're really focused in on what's happening in your body. How does it feel to breathe in these different ways? How does it feel in your body to move in these different ways or to hold yourself in different ways? And that gets you out of the past. That gets you out of any thoughts of mulling over the past or obsessive thoughts about the past. That gets you out of continuously going into the future, catastrophizing, feeling anxious about what's going to happen next. It gets you into the present moment. So highly, highly recommend you take on these exercises and really dive into getting to know yourself and getting to know your body and tapping into that. And one other thing I wanted to mention is Simon is also featured in AVAIYA's Overcoming PTSD curriculum. Really loved his class with that curriculum as well. He also talks about these different things in movement and posture and all these different exercises you can do as it relates to overcoming trauma. So highly recommend you check that out if you haven't already. And we'll see you again real soon. Thanks everybody.